has now come to suspend my campaign.
After a major Super Tuesday victory, the race for the White House heats up.
Plus, interest rates aren't going down, but it's not all bad news for borrowers.
We've covered a lot of ground, and the full effects of our tightening have yet to be felt.
And one library is asking for more than just your library card if you damage a book. Newswatch starts right now. Well, the stage is set for a rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Good evening. I'm Haley Swano.
And I'm Haley Hollinger. Welcome to Newswatch. Today, Nikki Haley suspended her presidential campaign after winning just one of the 15 Republican contests on Super Tuesday.
And as the presidential race now focuses on the two frontrunners, both President Biden and former President Trump face challenges ahead of November. Michael Yoshida is in Washington with the details.
Despite Donald Trump's dominance within the heart of the Republican Party, questions still remain about his ability to expand his base with moderate and independent voters. For President Biden, concerns about his age continue to follow him, along with low approval ratings and poll numbers, all of this raising the stakes for President Biden's State of the Union speech later this week.
The time has now come to suspend my campaign.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley suspending her campaign in the race for the Republican presidential nomination. Her announcement just one day after major Super Tuesday losses all but ensures a Joe Biden-Donald Trump rematch in November. Haley congratulating but not endorsing the former president.
It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him.
Now the question is, who gets Haley's supporters?
If you agreed with Nikki Haley when she stood up to Trump for things like election denialism or the chaos and division that he represents, there is in fact going to be a home for them in Joe Biden's campaign.
Trump responding to Haley's withdrawal on social media, posting, "Nikki Haley got trounced last night," adding he'd further like to invite all of the Haley supporters to join the greatest movement in the history of our nation. Trump has cruised through the primaries, collecting win after win.
There's never been one like this. There's never been anything so conclusive.
But there are reasons for concern. His character and extremism turning off more moderate and suburban voters, particularly those with college educations. For Biden, immigration, the economy, and his age remain vulnerabilities, as well as his response to Israel's war against Hamas, which has caused some protest votes. It raises the stakes for Thursday's State of the Union speech, where Biden will try to address his doubters and tout his administration's successes. As both President Biden and former President Trump gear up for their rematch, the respective weaknesses of both candidates likely to play a big role in a general election that seems most likely to be decided by a handful of swing states. In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida.
Haley did, however, win one primary last night. In Vermont, she won by around 3,000 votes. Now on the Democratic side, Minnesota Representative Dean Phillips also suspended his presidential campaign today. His decision came hours after Haley suspended her campaign. The congressman immediately endorsed President Joe Biden for re-election. Phillips' largely self-funded campaign was considered a long shot by many political observers. Here in Ohio, voters are headed to the poll next week. While the outcome of the presidential primary election is all but guaranteed, there are other races for voters to decide on. 3 Republicans are vying to be their party's nominee in the U.S. Senate race. Secretary of State Frank LaRose, State Senator Matt Dolan, and Bernie Morano are all running to be the one that faces off against Democrat Sherrod Brown in the general election this fall. As for races here in our area, key races for U.S. House of Representatives and the Ohio State House are also on the ballot. But for a full list of what we will be voting can be found at the Secretary of State's website. There you can find sample ballots for every precinct in the state. And when you do go and vote, be sure to remember to bring proper identification. Under a new law, Ohioans need an unexpired government-issued photo ID when they're casting a ballot. If you need an ID, you can get one for free at your local BMV. To find a time to cast your ballot, head to your local Board of Elections website. All right, well, today was another gloomy day, but here in Athens, hopefully that won't be here much longer. We have our forecaster, Mia Sammons. Mia, what's it looking like?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we have seen that rain throughout the day today, and we'll continue to see that drizzle moving into tonight. But let's take a look at Athens currently. We see that drizzle, and it will continue into tonight. We see temperature at 57 degrees, and looking at the temperature in the past 24 hours in Athens, and we're experiencing some technical difficulties, so I'll send it back to the desk.
The One Ohio Recovery Foundation is starting the process to allocate over $50 million to communities affected by the opioid epidemic. The money comes from settlements made with major pharmaceuticals companies over their role in the crisis. The foundation says money will fund opportunities for a diverse range of Ohio-based organizations on the front lines of the Ohio's opioid battle. Applications for the grant will go live on One Ohio's grant portal on April 2nd and will be due by May 3rd. To register for an application, go to oneohiofoundation.com.
New data shows Ohio has the highest flu levels in the country. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, last week alone there was over 700 hospitalizations and a 6.4% rise in outpatient visits because of the virus. To help stop the spread, Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff, director of the Ohio Department of Health, says to practice common sense precautions like staying home if you're sick and to get a flu vaccine. And speaking of the flu shot, for the past decade, Americans have had access to shots protecting against 4 strands of the virus. But a panel of experts advising the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has voted to recommend that next season's flu shots have a different formula. Mandy Gaither explains the differences and how COVID-19 helped bring about this change.
Dr. Badzik, yes. Dr. Berger, yes.
It was unanimous. A panel of experts who advised the FDA voted to recommend a new flu shot formula this fall.
I personally think that there's a lot of opportunity to leverage this to rebuild trust within the community, especially those who, are those that are vaccine hesitant, showing that, that vaccination isn't just to put more things in individuals' arms, but also just to address the current circulating strain.
Right now, flu shots in the U.S. protect against 2 A strains and 2 B strains of the virus, but the next vaccines will offer protection for just 3 strains, as one of the B strains from the Yamagata family hasn't been detected in testing since March 2020. Viruses from this strain were already in decline before the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's believed that precautions people took to avoid the coronavirus finished them off. The FDA is now working with flu shot manufacturers to get the Yamagata strain out of U.S. vaccines in time for the upcoming flu season.
And approval of all the necessary regulatory submissions is on track for a 2024-25 PIV implementation for all licensed U.S. influenza vaccine manufacturers.
For Health Minute, I'm Andy Gaither.
The committee also voted to recommend a 4-strand formula, including the B strand Yamagata, for vaccines that will be manufactured in the U.S. but distributed in other countries. And coming up, it's a race against the clock to stop a government shutdown, how that may affect critical investigations here at home.
And there is still no clear sign when borrowers will see relief from high interest rates. But why is not all that bad news?
This is a special cub, chosen for life in the wild. But preparing a captive-born panda to roam free isn't easy. Little is known about wild panda life. Meet the dedicated team who spent years shedding light on the wild world this little panda will face.
Tonight at 8 on WOUB.
On Finding Your Roots, actors Pamela Adlon
I'm so curious.
and Katherine Hahn.
They went to a new world.
Family history reveals secrets
What? How do you know that?
and scandal.
Do you think they kept all of this a secret from everyone?
Isn't that nuts?
Plus, a DNA match.
What? That's so cool!
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
Sometimes we have to look that monster right in the face. Show we're not afraid of it anymore.
Love is the best thing we have. It's the only thing we have.
No more secrets. I just want to be right here in this moment with you.
I trust nothing untoward has occurred.
Bright things ahead, darling. Brightness and joy.
Those that underestimate us should do so at their own peril.
And if they do, so bloody what?
Open your eyes.
Best episode ever.
The chair of the National Transportation Safety Board, Jennifer Homendy, testifies before Congress as concern over the safety of air and rail travel in the United States grows. Her testimony included updates on critical investigations like the January 5th door plug blowout on an Alaska Airlines flight and last year's toxic train derailment in East Palestine. Ivan Rodriguez joins us from Atlanta with a breakdown of today's testimony.
During Homendy's testimony, she said that Boeing still hasn't turned over important records related with the, quote, opening, closing, and removal of the door and the team that does that work at the Renton facility. Because of this, the NTSB says they still don't know who's directly responsible. National Transportation Safety Board Chair Jennifer Homendy testifying before the full Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation on the more than 1,000 active investigations the agency is conducting.
We owe it to the families of those involved, to the communities where events occurred, and to the traveling public to find out what happened.
Key among those investigations, the terrifying mid-air door plug blowout and emergency landing of a Boeing 737 MAX 9 flight. Homendy ripped into the airplane manufacturer for failing to produce key documents related to the incident.
There is one team that deals with the doors of 25 people. Why we don't have those names today, 2 months later, is really disappointing.
This just days after the FAA issued a report finding multiple problems with Boeing's production practices following a 6-week audit triggered by the door plug failure. While the company did not immediately respond to Homendy's testimony, CEO Dave Calhoun previously issued a statement promising a comprehensive action plan for improvements. During her testimony, Homendy also addressed recent runway incidents and the ongoing staff shortages at air traffic control. A government funding package currently making its way through Congress includes support for hiring new controllers.
Hiring is key. The FAA has set goals for hiring. What we're not talking about is the people who leave every year, which is about half.
Boeing is now responding to Homendy's testimony, signaling there may not be any documents to share. In a brief statement, the company says, in part, with respect to documentation, if the door plug removal was undocumented, there would be no documentation. In Atlanta, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
Homendy says another issue that could jeopardize the agency's ability to address safety concerns is the funding feud playing out on Capitol Hill. Today, U.S. lawmakers are rushing to pass funding legislation ahead of a possible government shutdown on Friday. The House passed a $460 billion spending package today that is now heading to the Senate. The legislation funds critical agencies, including the Justice, Transportation, Commerce, and Agricultural departments. The time crunch is even tighter with President Biden's State of the Union address taking up significant time tomorrow. But lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are confident the spending package will be passed.
Hey, sorry. So I know you guys couldn't hear me before, so we're going to try this again. But in Athens currently, we see that light drizzle. We've been seeing that rain throughout the day today, and it's been pretty consistent throughout the day. We see temperature at 57 degrees. But looking at Athens these past 24 hours, we see in between that mid-50s to low 70s range for temperature, and we've been seeing that throughout these past couple of days. And then taking a look at this rain these past 24 hours, we've seen this low pressure system in our area that's been giving us this rain these past couple of days, and this high pressure system is going to make its way in, and that's going to be giving us a cloudy day tomorrow with this another low pressure system following it, kind of sandwiching us in here, and that's going to be giving us lots of rain this weekend. And as we can see, looking at this radar, we see in Columbus and Cincinnati, we see lots of rain, and we're just getting a little bit of that drizzle. And then in the west, we see some rain that's going to be following it, which again will give us some rain into this weekend. But in Athens tonight, we see a 30% chance of rain. It's going to be raining until about 8 p.m. tonight and then start to drop off until about 10 p.m. So if you have any evening plans, make sure you're bringing that umbrella, make sure you're bringing that rain jacket. And we see an overnight low of 44 degrees. And then moving into Athens tomorrow, that's whenever that high pressure system is really going to be in effect, bringing us those cloudy skies. That's not going to stick around for that long, but we see this temperature high of 58 and a low of 44. And as we can see, this high pressure system is really clearing us out, and we see this low pressure system that's going to be making its way in, that's going to be affecting us into this weekend, but into tomorrow night, it's going to continue to pull its way towards us, and then Friday, that's whenever it's really going to hit. So we see it really moving towards us, and that's going to be really affecting us, giving us lots of rain this weekend. But if we take a look at this weekend, this low pressure system is going to be giving us 100% chance of rain on Saturday, 20% chance of rain on Sunday, and then it's going to be replaced with this high pressure system that's going to be moving in on Monday and Tuesday. We see sunny skies on Monday, so make sure if you have any outdoors plans, you're getting out there and doing them on that Monday and Tuesday of next week. We see temperatures in the mid-40s to high 60s range, which we've seen this week and will continue to see into next week. So early next week, we have that high pressure system, and then partly sunny skies will be on Wednesday. We have a temperature high of 67, temperature low of 44. So definitely get outside after this very gloomy weekend. Make sure you're doing those outside activities, going on a walk, going on a run, because the weather is going to be beautiful. That's all for me. Now back to Haley.
Thanks, Mia. No evidence of a recession. That's what Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell had to say to lawmakers today after announcing cuts in interest rates are likely later this year. Even with a promising outlook, this could mean continued economic strain for consumers still struggling with high borrowing costs. Laura Geary has more on what this means for you and your wallet.
We've covered a lot of ground, and the full effects of our tightening have yet to be felt.
That was essentially the good news, bad news message from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell ahead of his testimony to Congress Wednesday on the state of the economy.
While inflation remains above the FOMC's objective of 2%, it has eased substantially, and the slowing in inflation has occurred without a significant increase in unemployment.
Easing inflation and unemployment at near historic lows were positives that Powell highlighted, but they came at a price many consumers are still struggling with.
We've raised our policy interest rate by 5.25 percentage points.
Soaring interest rates were key to the Fed's aggressive inflation-fighting campaign that spanned 11 hikes since March of 2022 and leveled out last summer. Still,
the committee does not expect that it will be appropriate to reduce the target range until it has gained greater confidence that inflation is moving sustainably toward 2%.
Chairman Powell warned against doing too much too soon, and the central bank will hold steady for now, but he added in a glimmer of hope for easing rates down the road.
If the economy evolves broadly as expected, it will likely be appropriate to begin dialing back policy restraint at some point this year.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
Economic outlook is uncertain.
Powell says before interest rate cuts are made, the Fed first wants to see more evidence inflation is falling substantially back to its 2% target. Next, the Ohio men's basketball team is on fire heading into March. And for the latest from Newswatch, follow us on Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, and YouTube.
President Biden's first term is coming to a close, with issues persisting at home
Under President Biden, America has laid out a welcome mat.
and abroad.
History shows us if we allow an aggressor to take land with impunity, they keep going.
Can the president instill a sense of unity amongst a divided nation?
Thursday at 9 on WOUB.
We're creating a mixed income community. Being low income shouldn't bar you from experiencing a higher quality of life.
I have grown up in a journalism environment where I was frequently the only woman in the room.
At some point, a row of trees went in.
I feel segregated. They were planted to hide this community.
We live in a virtual reality world. Everybody everywhere knows what's going on. So people are aware that there's a problem here.
I wanted her story told, and I felt good that I was the one that was able to tell it.
I know how to do other things to survive.
Rise up and say, you know what? Enough is enough.
For more than 70 years, WOUB Public Media has been the place where people in our region turn to learn how stories of the past ignite the imagination of the future. It's where information, entertainment, and education work together to inform, enlighten, and inspire generations. It's the place where the community gathers to hear and see our world in new and innovative ways. WOUB, the public media you trust that's worthy of your support.
The Ohio men's basketball team continues to stay hot with a road win over the Buffalo Bulls last night. The Bobcats never trailed in their 78-66 win over Buffalo. The win makes it 5 in a row for Ohio. The Bobcats were led by junior A.J. Clayton, who knocked down 7 threes and totaled 23 points on the night. Senior guard Sheriff Mitchell also had an efficient night, dropping 21 points. Ohio's last game is Friday against Miami and Oxford. And as for Ohio women's basketball, it has an important pair of road games this week to close out the regular season, which begins tonight at Akron. The Bobcats previously took down the Zips 67-58 in its MAC opener back on January 3rd in the Convo. Ohio hasn't won a road game since January 24th, where they are 1-11 this season. The Bobcats are currently 7th in the MAC standings with a 7-9 conference record as they continue to fight for a spot in the upcoming MAC tournament. Head coach Bob Bolden knows how important this week is for the Bobcats.
Getting to Cleveland is something that's very important to us, something that we certainly want to do, want to be a part of. But we also want to, if we're fortunate enough to go, we want to go and play well. So we want to kind of build on what we've done here at home. Maybe try to win another road game before the year ends. That'd be cool. And then see what we can do in Cleveland.
So I know I'm going to be watching those 2 road games, and I hope they're able to make it to the MAC championship.
Absolutely. I always look forward to our updates on Newswatch. I mean, we got some big games coming up, so that's super exciting. And I mean, the men basketball, 5 games in a row coming on a winning streak.
Oh, man.
Super exciting.
Oh, yeah, they're hot.
They're gonna
I'm so
keep pulling
excited.
wins. That's great. So amazing. Well, still ahead, one library is allowing people to pay late fees in a very unique payment.
But first, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
One more episode is all that's left, but don't worry, you still have plenty of action. The Trimble boys battle it out with South Webster, a rematch between the Lady Wildcats and Newark Catholic, and Federal Hawking takes on Leesburg Fairfield. But that's not all. We'll announce all of our end of season awards. You won't want to miss it. The hour-long season finale of Hardwood Heroes airs Sunday at 11 p.m. and Monday at 6 p.m. And as always, we're reminding you to be heroic.
If you don't drive it, donate it and support something you use every day.
On American Experience.
The sun's energy is absorbed and transformed into heat.
Maria Telkush was a solar evangelist.
She really imagined this as revolutionizing the way that people lived.
Nothing else would even get close to the Dover Sun House.
She's laying a foundation for pretty much everything now that we do with solar.
The Sun Queen on American Experience.
Tuesday at 9 on WOUB.
Do you know there are more than 2,700 rules that govern your Social Security benefits?
In Social Security and You, expert Mary Beth Franklin leads you through the Social Security labyrinth.
Deciding when and how to claim benefits can have a major impact on your retirement income for the rest of your life.
Social Security and You, the user's guide we've all been waiting for.
Friday at 11 on WOUB.
Finally, tonight, a public library in Massachusetts is accepting cat photos instead of fees for lost or damaged books this month. It's part of Worcester Public Library's March Meowness. A photo or even a drawing of any cat erases fines. And in the first 5 days of the month, 400 accounts were cleared. The idea started when a library task force noticed a lot of younger patrons had fees dating back to the start of the pandemic. And they didn't want those people to stop using the library because of the fines. Tossing it over for final weather.
We've been experiencing multiple rainy days here in Athens, but in Athens currently, we still see that drizzle that is going to continue into tonight. Temperature at 57 degrees. And looking into tonight, we see that 30% chance of rain with an overnight low of 44 degrees. We'll be seeing this rain until about 8 p.m. tonight. So if you have any evening plans, make sure you're bringing that umbrella. Make sure you're bringing that rain jacket because it is going to be rainy. And then looking into tomorrow, that's whenever this high pressure system will be in our area, giving us those cloudy, clear skies. But we have this low pressure system that's going to be moving in and affecting us into this weekend. We see a temperature high of 58 and a temperature low of 44 with mostly cloudy skies tomorrow. And then looking into this weekend, that's whenever we're going to be hit with this low pressure system. On Saturday, we see 100% chance of rain, so make sure you're bringing that rain jacket out this weekend. And then moving into next week, that low pressure system will be replaced with a high pressure system. Monday and Tuesday, beautiful sunny days, and then Wednesday, another beautiful sunny day.
Great, thanks so much, Mia. Well, that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. For Mia Sammons and Haley Hollinger, I'm Haley Sueno. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next, and you can find us the latest news anytime at WOUB.org. Have a great night.